Here, the next thing we're going to look at is the Smart Employee Handbook. This is a really cool interactive tool. It's actually a handbook builder, and it comes with real-time policy alerts that can reach you by email as well. It's quite a tedious process to get that handbook updated, combing through the entire thing to make sure that it is still compliant. So this tool really takes the guesswork out of it. So if I go up to the company policies, and I'll click on handbooks, this will bring you to a handbook library. There's no limit on the amount of handbooks you can create. As you can see, I have a few in here. What I'm going to do is actually just show you the process of creating a new handbook. Okay, so this brings up the handbook information screen. Mineral maintains a library of pre-written handbook policies, that apply to both federal and each state. Those are reviewed by a team of legal experts that they hire, so you know that they're always compliant. It allows you to quickly customize the handbook for your specific workplace. So first thing we do is type in a handbook name, webinar handbook. We're going to leave it on federal plus states for now. Next, we'll move on to your company information, and whatever you place in these fields will auto-populate throughout the handbook to replace some of the generic text that they have so that all of the policies are custom for your team. And then under primary contact, this will be the department or specific person that your employees should go to if they have questions about the handbook. Normally, this will be your HR department or maybe people ops, something like that. We can also select this box to have it auto-translated into Spanish for the handbook once you download it. You can upload a logo if you would like to have that appear on the cover page for the handbook, just a nice personalization option. You can also choose how employees are referred to. Again, this is kind of an industry-specific thing, but I could choose team members. And then the head of the company title, we'll just put CEO in there. And then what our managers or supervisors referred to. A couple final steps here before it actually generates the handbook. What you can do is choose a state, and this will add those state-specific policies to the handbook. So if we wanted New York, I can just type that in there, click on New York, and click Add State. Next thing we'll do is choose the number of employees that we have in that state. Last thing to note here, and this is really important, and it's checked on by default, which is good because you want to leave this on, is the subscribe to email alerts for this handbook. And as you can see here, this is key text. Be notified when policy language changes and updates to this handbook are recommended. So I'll click Save and Review Policies, and this will take us to the table of contents for the handbook. So what we can see up at the top are what are called the core policies. These are general HR best practice policies that Mineral has included in this standard template, and it also includes any federal policies that would apply to all of your employees, no matter where they're located. And then scrolling down, we can also see we have specific New York policies. And finally, we have custom policies. Now, what we can do, organize this handbook the way that we want, is click on the reorder button. From here, it's really easy. You can just click and drag. Expand one of these policy sections and change the order that it appears within that. You can do that. I can also move this custom policy to any of the sections that are already included in the handbook. So if you want it to be more integrated and not stand out, what I can do is move this to the welcome section. As we're scrolling through these, you can see that there is a key for different types of policies. At the top here, what you can see is that there are required policies. Those are marked with the star. Those are required by federal law to include in your handbook, federal or state law. You can also see there are optional policies. What that means is policies that might be required, but are generally not required by every workplace. You can also see custom policies, any ones that you created. And then finally, best practice policies. Those are included by default. They are generally considered to be best practice in order for you to stay compliant and also avoid any potential issues that you might have with your employees. Clear language that makes the expectations obvious to both parties. So over here on the right, you can see these toggles. Toggling this off will make it so that when you download the handbook, that policy will be invisible. It will not be included in the handbook. All right, the next thing that we can do, though, is go into a specific policy. So we'll click on that link, and you will see a policy description, including if it is required by law. It'll make that very clear. However, from here, you are free to edit this policy as much as you want. This is a free text editor. you will see that these terms under the brackets, these will be replaced by the information that we filled out way back in that handbook information page at the beginning of walking through this process. So you don't want to mess with anything in the double brackets, because that's going to get replaced by your own personalization information. All right, any changes that you make, you can go ahead and click Save. You could also turn this policy off if you wanted to get more information on it before you did that. You can also click Preview, and this will show you what it looks like with that customization information already filled in, any formatting changes that you've made, so you can get a good idea of what it will look like in the downloaded product before you go through that. All right, so once you've gone through all these policies, you reviewed the information you need to, made the changes you need to, what we can do is go up to this Actions drop-down menu. A lot of options here. First is I could link a custom policy. So if I created one and I didn't already have it attached to this handbook, we could do that. We can go back to the handbook settings if we want to change any of that custom information that we included at the start of the process. And then there's a lot of download options. You can create your employees within this system. And once you click Send for e-signature, you'll have the option to digitally email this handbook to them, and it will track if they have signed the handbook or not. So once you've done that, there is a dashboard that you will be able to track who has signed and who has not. So again, nice tool to keep track of those things. Finally, there is an activity stream. So how Mineral is set up is that you have what we call a client admin. You can have multiple client admins per company, and each of those will be able to work on the same handbook library at once. So the nice thing here is that if you have two people maybe working on the handbook, different sections, you can come into this activity stream, which is really basically an audit trail for the handbook, to see who made what changes and when. You can see there's a timeline here. You can see what the action was performed. So you can see that I created this handbook, I rearranged the table of contents, and etc. All right, I'm going to head back to the handbook homepage. And then these with the red flag, these are policy alerts. So this is how you can keep track of any legislative changes that you need to focus on in order to keep your handbook compliant. So what we'll do is click on that. This will take us to the table of contents for the handbook. And as we can see, there's kind of an orange highlighted number over here. And that's the number of policies within this section that have an alert on them. And they make it very clear what the policy alert is with this gigantic warning up at the top here. Policy may not be modified until you accept or dismiss this alert. Now, it'll tell you what the language alert is for, and also history if any previous alerts have been made on this specific policy. So we can see here, it'll have the previous policy language and then updated policy language, so you can view the difference. I can also click on View Text Difference if I want to make that a little more obvious what the difference is. And you can see that there's a lot of added language here over on the right. After you've reviewed the changes to the policy, is either accept policy changes, and this will replace your current policy language with the policy language provided in the alert, or you can dismiss. If you have a custom policy, for example, that already includes that information, you can click Dismiss Alert, and then you can proceed to download the handbook. So it doesn't force you to make those updated language changes. It just strongly recommends it. And we'll accept those policy changes. And now we can see that that alert has been dismissed.